Welcome, everyone. Another episode of Escape Velocity. Thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Tracy Halverson. And gosh, I'm so excited. We are talking we are all talking with Jen Dary today. Just a little bit about Jen. I met Jen in 2012 when all sorts of change was in the crock pot, I guess, just starting to brew. She had an idea for um, a business that she wanted to start. She was still working in an agency in New York. She had a baby just starting in the oven, tiny, tiny. We met at the very first sort of uh, test run of what ended up becoming Owner Camp and the Bureau of Digital and all these things. And when Jen did then start her business, Plucky, my old company was her first client, and we worked together and have known each other. And let's uh, let's dive in. Jen, thanks for joining.
Oh my gosh. I I just said this before we started recording, but there's like 300 copies of my book over there in boxes, and that feels like a dream. And also, if you just backed up to 2012 and I'm like in this room with mostly men and you and a couple other women, and you told me, by the way, you're going to have a baby later this year. Also, in 2 years, you're going to start your own business. And also, also a lot of other things like you're going to have a brain tumor. But if you just fast forward creatively and say, and then in 13 years, you shall sit with Tracy on her podcast and discuss the book coming out, I would be like, what bingo card are you playing, man?
Yeah, right? Crazy. If we could go back in time, I mean, would you even want to know what was coming?
I don't think so. It's easy to say because I'm now alive and healthy, and that is good. But we've talked about this a lot, but sometimes you just feel like just hang on for the ride, and
All you can do.
that's all you can do. And when there's opportunities, say yes when it makes sense. And um, I don't know. I feel like my life is a big result of that so far.
That's one of my mottos. Say yes to the universe.
Yes.
If it's at all possible, like don't hide from your life. Um,
Yes.
it won't let
Yes.
you in most cases, but you'll sure miss out on a lot of the great stuff if you don't just embrace it and say yes. So let's lay the groundwork here for our friends who are listening. So Jen was going through life. Business was good. Life was good. Kids were good. Um, and then whammo, you you found out you had a big ass motherfucking brain tumor.
Good. I should have asked if we can curse in this place.
We can
Yes, great.
absolutely curse of this.
Thank you
Yeah.
for modeling that for me.
I do mark the podcast as, not
Good.
really geared for children.
Perfect.
But yeah, uh, I will talk about, let's just
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah. So I had my second son in 2015. And, after you have a baby, like you just don't, you feel weird anyway. I was like nursing him, you're not sleeping. There's like all kinds of things that, like, it doesn't, nobody is really thinking bigger problems when you start having headaches and stuff like that because you have a baby. And everyone's like, yeah, time is weird, like keep going and just stay alive and keep the baby alive. And so that, but these symptoms just, I wouldn't even call them symptoms. I just would be like, God, I'm having headaches. And I would go to the GP and she would be like, well, you just had a baby and you're stressed and you have like a young business. Um, and that was really, I couldn't even probably say to you, this is what my symptoms are. Again, I didn't even think about it. I just felt like, I don't feel good like that.
Yeah.
And, I kept going back and they kept saying the same thing. And then, at some point I was like, you know what? I need to like blow this popsicle stand and embrace weird shit. So I was like, I'm going to do acupuncture. That's not even weird at all on the grand scheme of things. But I was like, I'm going to do acupuncture. And that didn't really help. And eventually I get referred and referred and referred. And eventually I'm in like a neurologist office. And he said, yeah, you're fine. You can take Advil every day, which, okay. And he was like, but just in case, let's do an MRI. MRI is like a big picture of of the inside of your body, right?
And this was,
And
give us the date.
this was April 8th, 2016. I had the MRI.
Okay.
And again, it was like, I have headaches, I don't feel great, and my baby's 8 months old. And then he called me like 10 minutes after I got home, the neurologist, and he said, you have a big brain tumor and we have to take it out right away, and we can't believe you're still functioning. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And um thus kicks off a huge crisis adventure, scary time, but turns out to be extremely life changing. And that is what I wrote my book about.
You know, when you built Plucky to help other people,
Yeah.
and so Plucky is, describe Plucky.
Well, you need to say words for SEO, right? So, like, Plucky is a leadership coaching and consulting firm, based outside DC now. I live in Arlington, Virginia. And I would say most of the time I spend one on one coaching. So it tends to
Mhm.
be with people in leadership roles or folks emerging into that. But I also teach a manager training called So Now You're a Manager several times a year. I have some products over here for managers. And mostly I would say that I spend almost every day with people who are going to work and feeling stressed about it.
Mhm.
And that can be from a variety of angles. It can be, I'm a boss and I'm stressed and I need to like give feedback to someone, or I have a boss and they're stressing me out and I need to leave, or maybe I'm about to be fired, or all that kind of stuff. And some people go to therapists, which of course is wonderful. And coaching, I have found, at least my style of it, is really great when you need to not catch the therapist up on all the business jargon, you
Yeah.
know? When you're like, hang on, let me explain how engineering and design works together, or like, let me explain IPO, or like whatever. So some people will be like, I want to talk about like what's going on. I need some strategies for how to move forward. Um, but I need somebody who knows the business. And so Plucky is how I do it.
So how did things change when suddenly you were the one that needed to be brave?
Mm.
You were the one that was like, I mean,
Yeah,
what was that shift like? I mean, I'm sure in the moment it wasn't like, oh,
right.
shift gears.
Yeah, it
But
was very uncomfortable.
yeah,
I really don't like it. I I am the helper. Uh I'm the first of three kids in my family. I am the president of the PTA. Like I do
yeah,
those kinds of things in life.
yeah.
And this was like not only like the vice president. This was like the literal patient in the hospital, and I just had to receive. I had to receive and not give for a number of weeks and months, and that was really uncomfortable. But oh my gosh, like, so I mean, I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't had to do that.
So again, uh, Jen has written this book. It is coming out. When is it
January
getting?
January 13th.
January 13th. It's called I Believe in Everything. This book was born from a series of experiences you had going through this
Yeah.
very crazy time. And I don't even really know how to like dive in because it's been this journey, but really what has what you've just the book's fantastic. I mean, I just want to start there. Like
Thank
I
you.
I started it, couldn't stop, um, and just felt like I was there inside at your brain, your mind,
Mhm.
minus tumor. Although I love that, I felt like the tumor was a major character. but more what the tumor and that experience cracked open for you.
Yeah.
And, it had a lot to do with your brain and a tumor and, you're having brain surgery and all this, but, it is like your brain cracked open. And
Yeah.
what you share in the book is so much of the struggle around identity when you especially when you shift from being the helper, the doer, the one who's teaching other people how to be brave and how to move forward, to suddenly you needing all that help
Mm.
and what that did to your identity. And you just so beautifully and heartwarmingly and honestly share those moments where it just got brought into such clear view. I mean, I will say, I went from crying on one page to laughing hysterically to kind of snickering, 3 pages later.
Mm.
And just your humor shining through throughout. But when you looked in the mirror and thought like, "Is this real? Can this really
Yeah.
be happening?" What was that like?
Well, this is kind of a fast forward, and you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but just a couple weeks ago I had a similar moment. Luckily it's okay now, but I had some test results come back, and the results said like there's a new little thing in your head and it might have grown. And I was sitting in the armchair in our living room, and like your body just sort of ices up. There's like complete numbness for a second. And I just was in that chair thinking, the only other person that knows this right now is the radiologist who read the report. So I was like trying to figure out when to call Chris in the room or when to tell him, right? One of my kids was at school already. One of the kids was across from me on the couch. And it was like this pocket of time. And it's very reminiscent of what happened, when this diagnosis comes through. It's like, if I don't say anything, it's not real. And and it's, I don't even know. Maybe you've had these moments too where, I don't know, you're just out of time almost. It's like you're in a I don't even want to say bubble. You're just not existing on this plane for a quick second. And I had to measure out when do I want to call Chris over? Well, it wasn't even going to be call over. I was going to come down to my office and tell him to come down because my son was upstairs still. And that's how it was that day. I mean, that day, honestly, it was so shocking that um I don't think I had that out of time moment. Maybe a minute, but it was more like echoes of that for a while. Like you said, looking in the mirror, or we're driving through the streets of Berkeley. We lived in California at the time, and all of a sudden, like, wait, oh my God, that's going on. Just like that sort of big memory of it. I'm so glad that the book conveyed that state to you, because I think as I was writing it, one of the trickier parts was, how do I represent my thought processes, which today, as I was writing it, my brain is fully functional. How do I represent that in the text? Like, do I use like slow words? You know what I mean? Like, how do I like mimic that experience in text? Because the coherence with which I'm writing present day is way better than it was then. I was like slow and it was hard. And you get a snippet of that every once in a while. Like, there's a scene where I finally decide to play with the baby. And there's this scene where I'm playing, and it's exciting for me because I haven't been able to play with him yet. And then at the end of the scene, I go, I go back to bed and I say, "Oh my gosh, what a victory! I played with him for 11 minutes, and then I need a 2-hour nap." And those are the moments that I feel like I needed to figure out how to expose to you, like, "No, brah, it was not just like, oh, I can't hold the baby, but I'll just hang out with the baby." Like, I couldn't watch, I think we got through like 9 minutes of a Seinfeld episode. And if you've never had brain surgery, you don't know how complicated Seinfeld is. I love it. It was it was like the big salad episode. And there are in Seinfeld there are like four different storylines all coming together. There are echoes and like funny jokes, like inside jokes across all of them. And it was so overwhelming. I could we had to turn it off at 9 minutes because it was like, oh my gosh. And so anyway, as in terms of the making of this book and the art of it, it was a struggle not to make myself sound like totally incapacitated, but also not sound totally normal because I think I wanted the reader to understand shit was not normal.
Yeah, no, I think you did. I mean, I got this feeling of like just the world, like everything. It's almost like you were inside all of a sudden this cocoon,
Yeah.
leading up to the surgery, and then going through the recovery in the hospital and then coming home. And it was so visceral when you talked about how scared you were to start to like expose yourself to more after going through this.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, your children, it's like, I'm scared. Like, what if one of them launches themselves at me, or I need to be able to react quickly to something, or
Yeah.
there's just so much going on as there is with two little boys and,
Yeah.
one that's still a baby basically. And,
Mhm.
you had to, physically and emotionally go into this very cocooned, like going through this journey, experience. I think
Yeah.
you really did a good job of capturing that. I mean, just like the dark, the need to sleep and rest
Mhm.
um one of the things I was wondering, what it was very powerful reading about you and Chris talking about, like, I mean, going into
Mhm.
the surgery, like there was not
Right. What
a
happens if?
guarantee
Yeah.
you were gonna come out of it and come out of it at all,
Yeah.
survive it, let alone who were you gonna be, what kind of state were you gonna be in. All of those things were like nobody
Yeah.
really knew. I mean, and when you were facing your life through those realities and having those conversations with Chris about, "Hey, I want you to be able to, like, find
Yeah.
love again," and thinking
Yeah.
about, like, somebody else might be a mom to these kids and writing the notes to the
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
What
That's
I
when
mean,
everybody cries.
yeah, it
Like,
happened.
my copy editor was like, "Well, I held it together until the notes for the kids." And yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, there maybe I'll say it like this. So, the guy, Matt Roser, who designed the cover of the book, who
Which
I
is
will
beautiful, by the
show.
way.
I
Yeah,
know it's
show
so beautiful.
anyone who's
So
watching, on
yes,
YouTube
if
or
you're watching, you
elsewhere.
can see it. If not, you can just look it up. I believe in everything.
It's beautiful.
But he designed the cover, and um, I had hired him, but we hadn't met yet on Zoom. And he said, "Well, send me the book. I want to read it, and then we can talk about your aesthetic and everything." And the first time we met, he said, "Well, I was reading this on a train, and it was a problem." Because he was tearing up a lot, and he said that his cousin had died of a brain tumor. Young mom died of a brain tumor like a couple years earlier. And he said the thing is, when you see someone going through a health crisis on social media, there is a lot of like BRB crushing it, right? Or like you're a warrior, like or again in first person, even like I'm gonna get this, like I'll be
Right.
okay. We have things like Caring Bridge now, where it's almost basically like a blog where people can update on their health things, and there's just so much positivity, and also in the comment section, of course.
Right.
And what he said is, I really appreciated knowing what she might have been going through, because it's not all warrior stuff, right? Like it the in those moments, I think the book allows me to sort of say, like, mostly I thought I was going to be okay, but if I wasn't, like, it was going to be really not okay, like dead, or vegetative, or, my tumor was near my auditory processing and memories, so it could have taken my hearing, it could have, I don't know, there's a lot of things that can happen. And so there were some very real moments, even if I tried not to think about them very much. I mean, like, I don't know, you can't be in complete denial. I have 2 young children here. So, like,
Yeah.
if I stay in denial and something happens, then I've completely voided myself from their lives. So, those were hard moments, but I know even a couple people right now going through meningiomas, which is the type of tumor I had, who are not preparing in those ways. They're guys, by the way.
Mm.
And I just think, how can you, regardless of what's going on, how can you be a gift to the people around you? Like, how
Mhm.
can you make your wishes clear? I know it's uncomfortable. It's really fucking uncomfortable. But, like, how can you say, if this goes whatever, sideways, or, however, I want the kids to have another parent, like, feel free to do that. And, I don't know. There really was so much freedom for me. This is where the spiritual bend of the book comes, right? Because I really felt, almost like the most awake that I have ever been during this experience too, which maybe makes sense. Like, if you're on death's door, everything gets really fucking crystal clear. Here's what's important, here's what's not, here's what text I don't need to write back to, like, etc.
Ye
And so, in a way, those conversations were kind of the only ones we could have. It wasn't like, which way for takeout? It was like, if I die, this is what you should do. Like, there's like no chit chat, man. It's like really, really stark.
um, I guess along those lines, I'm sure on a lot of levels, if you could go back in time and
Mm.
no brain tumor,
Mhm.
you would absolutely choose that. Is there Are there things that you would not happily give back?
I think about this a lot, actually. I probably wouldn't pick the brain tumor again. Um, but it's always easy to pick something hard when it goes well, right? Like, oh, sure, that was hard for me, but I'd do it again. I don't know. It was really disruptive, and it more than anything, it turned out to be sort of like, now I have a book about it, but, like, this is the Jen story. I literally 2 days ago got a text from someone who said, "Hey, my aunt has a meningioma. Was that your thing?" So, like, I'm gonna talk to her next week. Like, it becomes the reason people contact me in some ways, right? And, like, that, while of course I really, feel very privileged that people feel like they can be intimate like that and text me those things, it also is it's quite a theme to have all the time. That said,
Mm.
it's like, we're recording this, it's going to be Christmas soon. I'm so busy, I'm so burned out, and there are many times when I really crave and miss the the most quiet time of my life, which was basically right before and then definitely after brain surgery, when I was in our bedroom. Everybody was keeping the kids away, everybody was doing all the stuff. I had no email, no nothing, couldn't even really look on social media because I couldn't read anything. um I really think that, the spiritual stuff that I talk about in the book, this connection to the universe, which I use the word bigness,
Oh, yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
connection can only, I think, happen on some level when everything else gets its lights turned out.
Mhm.
So, I feel so far from bigness, especially lately, but because I'm, like, thinking about sending my kid on his, outdoor lab project tomorrow, and do we have those hot pocket things for him? Like, I don't have the brain space to connect with the universe right now, and that was a really big gift for, like, a couple of weeks to be completely free of all responsibilities.
Mhm.
And who was I hanging out with? Well, it was kind of God. I don't know what else to call, not religious, but
Let's talk about the bigness.
let's do it.
Let's dive into that. When we were after I'd read the book, and some of the experiences you had, with how people have reacted to and how people are going to react to some of the things you're sharing in this book. The bigness and this experience you had with, you call it the bigness, God, the universe, whatever,
Yeah.
is the book. In a lot,
Yeah.
it's like a story about I believing in everything and kind of finding that and sensing that connection to the bigness and the universe and God. And the brain tumor journey was just kind of like the vehicle.
Yes.
Um, but now that this book's coming out and that vulnerability of sharing these experiences is upon you. And
Ugh.
yeah, I mean, let's talk about
Yeah.
let's start there.
Well, I write in the book, I was a little grumpy when this started to reveal itself because I was like, come on, man. Like, I don't live in a swing state. At that point, I was in California. I'm in tech. Everybody's an atheist, basically. Like, I'm already like the soft skills bullshit workshop of the tech industry. Okay. People are like, oh, care and manager training. They're like, either she's going to do trust falls or we're going to find out how not to sexually harass people. But like, there's nothing, it's whatever. It's like, it's not hardcore engineering. And so I was like, "Oh, come on, man." Like I thought it was going to be like book, near death, motherhood. Oh. And now I'm like, "Damn it. Like is it really going to also be spiritual because what a repertoire?" Um I feel I feel ultimately I do not feel nervous because ultimately this is my trust fall into whatever the hell else happens.
Yeah.
And I didn't assign this book to myself. I really feel that it was assigned to me. So here you go, brah. Did my homework. Um, but something really interesting. My family has not read it yet. I'm about to actually put it in the mail to them. I have a
Mm.
brother, a sister, my parents. Um, and my brother lives locally to us, and a couple months ago I guess I was showing him the cover or something, and the subtitle of the book is a memoir of illness, motherhood, and magic. And he was like, why magic? And I was like, Rutro, have I not told anybody? I mean, I really feel like I did, Tracy. Like, I really feel like in those moments
Mm.
there's like a dream I had that I know I talked to people. Certainly my husband knows, but I was like, what do you guys think this book is about? And I think that's going to be interesting and scary. I don't know how you feel about being an artist who sometimes might have like your family implicated in things. Like my sister was like, why can't we read it yet? And I was like, listen, it's not a family tell all. This is not like a Kardashian level, like nothing. You're in the book, but it's not about the family. So I don't know. I feel like this is like when you put your book on in all the like, here's my ISBN number and all that. You have to pick categories for the book, right?
Righty.
So I was like, huh, okay. And so it's in health and it's in spirituality, but then, you do 10 drop downs. I was like, well, it's not like Catholic and it's not religious even. It's like some other stuff. It's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see how it changes my pipeline, honestly. Like if folks read the book, find out about me and are drawn to maybe get coaching, are they showing up, I don't know, with a different tone or way of being?
Well, I think a lot of people like to put aside the notion of magic or spirituality
Yeah.
or the bigness or God, whether they're religious or not. It's like I'm going through my day. I live in a material, world. Materialism in science is something that we all have elevated to God level anyway. But I loved in the book how you talked about, ever since that you can remember, you've been like, "Ooh, tell me." I mean, I remember telling you one of my ghost stories when we were
Yes.
together years ago, and you were like, "What? Tell me more." Just
Yes.
being fascinated by that. and wanting to understand it and sort of like dissect it and make sense out of it, which I think is what we all want to do, right? We want to understand and
Me
have
too.
things that don't make sense. When and then you get, you know, finding of this gigantic brain tumor, and nothing makes sense about that.
Yeah.
And nothing makes sense about a lot of life, but we like to pretend like it does. And so I think for me anyway, I think that we all are curious and want to know, and it bothers us that we can't really ever know,
Mm.
um, until whatever comes next, or we get these moments where things crack open for a second, and
Mhm.
you see it, and you feel it, and you know it. But then yeah, we go back to regular life,
Google
and
Calendar. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's hard to be in that state constantly.
Yeah.
Um, Unless you're, like Buddha, or I don't know, like a
Yeah.
deity.
This is why I love hospitals, because in hospitals, it's always serious. I mean, I guess not always, but like, that's the place where like the people who are floating in and out of death, that's where they're all hanging out. So it's like every time I walk in a hospital, it just feels so like liminal, like we're right there. Like if there's the doorway to anything, there's definitely spots in the hospital where people are passing away. And I know hospitals are really scary for some people. I am not scared of dying. I am not, after all this, especially, it's not like I'm like, oh, wow, heaven. Can't wait for all the angels to, smother me in kisses. Like, that is not what I think is, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not scared of dying. And it also makes me not scared of hospitals. It makes me curious about hospitals. And all I want to do is like sit down. This will be my second book, just interviews with hospital staff about the weird shit that happens where they're like, "Oh, so and so saw their old dog down the hall on their way out." Like, what are you talking about? Like dead people seeing, arriving in places. Like, man, I mean, it's just you mentioned materialism and like whatever. I'm totally in for science, math, vaccines, the whole nine. But like I don't know, this must just maybe be my role in life, but like every once in a while, and I think I mentioned this to you, I'll be with very legitimate people, like business owners, legitimate people. You get 2 drinks from them and they're like, "You know what? One time my dead grandmother came to me and told me to name my business this." And I'm like, "Why is this not the topic of all presentations at conferences?" Like
Right.
everybody has a thing. It's crazy, but nobody wants to talk about it. So, I'm glad that on some level this book can be a permission slip for people. Like hopefully I don't come across as like a woo-woo psycho, right? And hopefully
No.
I'm like, "Listen, I am a very logical, mathematical, business-minded person who also has a whole bunch of belief now in things I can't see."
Yeah. So, um, talk about that fear going away when you have these experiences. You just said you're not afraid of death.
Yeah.
Talk about that. What is that? Because I think so many people are so terrified, and
Yeah.
but when you have an experience like this, or experiences like this, and you know that there's so much more, so much. Um,
Yeah.
where did that kind of come from, that release of that fear? Because it's not like you were given a tour, of death
Right.
or for anything,
Right. Which I would have welcomed. Like I loved those Oprah shows where she interviewed all those people who like went into wormholes and shit. Um I think, like, when I think about my death, honestly, the impact of the people around me is what is most stressful and sad for
Yeah.
me. So, my children, my husband, my community. Hopefully that doesn't happen for a super long time and I'll be like, 90 and in shape and nobody's worried about me. But like I my I just, I'm really curious to see what happens. And I think that curiosity overtakes the fear that it's like I mean, everyone's going there, So, and I don't know, did you ever watch The Good Place, that show?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like, love it in the beginning, then there's a couple seasons where I'm like, Okay, fast forward, like, this is a little going off rails here." But then at the very end, I really wanna watch it one day, but I know I'll need probably, like, a priest and a therapist to help me through it, because those last few episodes, I don't know if you remember them, but, I won't spoil it for everybody for a series that's been out for, like, 20 years now, but, like, there's an ending. Like, even for them in the afterlife, there is an ending, and they don't know what happens after that ending. It's still question mark, question mark. So I think all of those things are playful and interesting to me. I was not scared in my, like, heart of hearts going into brain surgery. It was my logical mind that was scared. It was like, whoa, what the fuck is about to happen? Like, they wheel you in, and then this guy is like preparing saws, literally. And I'm like, Oh my God, wait, I have not asked enough questions here, But you're like on the gurney and they're putting the oxygen mask on, and you're like, oh my God, I took no notes during those calls, like, so all that to say that I felt extremely protected, loved, um, really, really spiritual, really, like, I don't know, bubbled in love. And I haven't really talked about this with anyone, but I have this. So I think I said, like, right, the book felt like a handshake with the universe. Universe is like, you're gonna live, you got to make something beautiful out of it. Cool, no problem. Gives me this idea. I have to write a book. It's called I Believe in Everything. Okay, fine. Takes me 9 years. Now we're good. And I've been thinking about this on and off a little bit of like, well, what happens when the reason you lived is now complete? Like, when we sit down and we talk about life goals or on your deathbed or whatever, like I really think for me, putting myself in this object is my way of, um I don't know, how would you even say it? Like, overcoming death, right? Like, I want my great grandkids to be like, wow, we kind of know Nana, because great Nana, because we like laugh with her in the book, or so what happens when you have somehow become a little immortal and you've put yourself on paper? I'm not sure. And there's part of me that's like, "Oh God," after, like, on January 14th, which is actually my birthday, but the day after the book releases, am I gonna get hit by a bus? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit of paranoia there for me, because I'm not sure what the runway looks like after that. After you've completed, I don't wanna say your life's work, right? Like, I'm totally down for extra credit, but this is a weird marker for me.
Yeah, well, you have other assignments, so you were given
Yes, fair.
other things you needed to do, which is good. So if it was just the book, I'd be nervous too. Um, so you got other stuff you got to work on, which I loved how you kept being like, Okay, I got to start an institute and
Right,
buy land and all these
right.
things." Because now, do you feel like you really have to like go down the checklist and be like, okay, I got to do all the things? Because the book was one of them.
Well, that's so funny. Richard Banfield, who we are friends with, and I know he's just been on your show, but he read the book. He loved it. And then he texted me and said, "All right, how are we starting Plucky Institute?"
Yeah.
And I was like, Banfield, like, it's like a Tuesday. I'm like winding down some email, you know? But that's classic Richard. And so then I said, "I don't know, man. Like, give me a minute." And then he texted me a couple days later and was like, "Okay, but for real, when are we going to have a long brunch and discuss Plucky Institute?" And I said, "Here's the truth." I was like, I'm going on book tour next year. And I was like, it's not at the top of my dream list, and it might not be there anymore. There's this great scene in the book, which is weird to say because it was a great scene in my actual life too, but where I'm literally having that sort of like almost like conversation in prayer with this Bigness, where I'm like, all right, bro, like, what is the plan? You're giving me the book, you're giving me this Plucky Institute idea. What's going first? And I'm sitting under this tree where there's just like acorns everywhere,
Mhm.
and that sort of like direction I get is like, hey man, you do you. There's
Mhm.
acorns everywhere. So I feel like Plucky Institute is not necessarily, I think it's a suggestion. I think it was super powerful, meaningful. It got me through a moment where right before surgery where I was like, what the heck? This is all opening up. But I think if that never comes to be, it would not be a failing. And I also think if it's going to come to be, it's gonna fucking come out of nowhere. It'll be like, your third cousin left you land in Idaho. It'll be like, what? It's like, it's a shape of an octagon and, there's a labyrinth built in. It'll be like, "Oh my god." Like, that's how I feel like it's gonna happen. It's not gonna be like an investor lunch, you know?
Right. No, and I think that's the way life works, right? And
Yeah,
certainly the way that
I hope so.
it's borne out for you. But also I this journey of writing the book, um,
Yeah.
you know, you hit this point where you had the book, it was written,
Mm,
and you were having to go through that process of getting it published. And
yeah.
what I love about this is, you know, and you mentioned Richard, so he
Mhm.
can play a starring role in just being like, "Well, you're Jen Dary.
Yeah.
Like, what are you waiting for?"
Ugh,
And with the title, I believe in everything, and that made me think about the story you told about. I think it was a college boyfriend who just had this like belief in you that he
yeah.
made you feel like he saw in you more than even you saw in yourself, and that that kind of belief
Mm,
from others um, can sometimes be the spark you need to do the thing that oftentimes we wait for ourselves to be given permission or to follow the right paths or
yeah.
oh, not now, or I can't, or I need to do it the right way, and I just really love that. And this has been part of you since I met you, like I have a dream to do something. I feel called to do something.
Mhm.
I want to do something. I'm going to fucking do it.
Yeah.
And, I just love the way that this book has come to be. Because you were just reminded that you're Jen Dary.
I
And that you believe in everything.
I know, it's so annoying. It's so annoying because even when I feel, um, unsure of something, I'm like, "Dang it, this is not who I am," Like, I am the person that's like, "Let's go." Um, the story you're telling about Richard is that so a year ago, literally, I got an agent to write a business book. And I was working hard on, writing a pitch for a business book for managers. And it was exciting because I had an agent and because I had been looking for an agent for, I believe in everything, for 3 years. And nobody was picking up that phone. And, you're just, how there are like some challenges where you're like, am I not trying hard enough? Or like, am I not using the right words? Or should I take another writing class? Or should I pay to go to a conference where I can meet agents? It's just like I could figure out I could see it wasn't happening, but I couldn't tell what the X factor was that was wrong. It
Mhm.
was like, I don't and then people would be like, "Oh, start a Substack." And I was like, "Bro, that is, I mean, you know how it goes, right?" So I was just like going round and round that horse, but I didn't have any better ideas for what to do. Then I get someone interested in me writing a business book. I get an agent. I'm like, okay, maybe that's supposed to happen first. And then if I get a little notoriety in my business world, then people will be like, do you have any spiritual memoirs on hand? Like, maybe it would go that order. So I was like confused, but I was like, okay, all right. And it just wasn't really coming together. And then when I saw you and some other friends of ours in April, um, I was telling you all about that, and I was also just like so mystified because I was sitting around all of you internet people and all of you and me obviously also, but everybody would be like, "Oh yeah, I like wrote a book last summer and I put it on Amazon, now it's out." Or like, "Oh, I wrote 2 books 2 years ago and then I wrote 3 books last year." And I'm like, "What? Like what are you guys talking about?" And it was all self-published. And if I can just say, if you go towards like the literary community, and like the writing classes I've been in and stuff, I mean, the first question when you say you're publishing is a book is like, "Oh, really? Who's your agent?
Uh-huh.
Oh, who published it?" It's this really old school system. And like, I don't know, I don't want to throw that much shade. I guess that's what you learn when you do your MFA or whatever, but like, oh my gosh, is it limiting? And so to suddenly be with all of these people that it's just like that should exist. I'll make an app for that. Like literally that's what all you guys do. So and anyway, on the last night, we're at dinner and I'm telling Banfield about Richard about this business book. And he said, "Well, is that the book tour you want to go on? Like, probably you go on a book tour for like 3 years and sell the business books and do coaching and whatever management trainings." And I was like, "Uh-oh." I was like, I don't think so. That's what I do. Like, I've been doing manager trainings. And then I was like, "No, I want to go on the memoir book tour." And then he said, "Well, you're Jen Dary. Make what are you doing? Like make it happen." And I was like, "Oh no."
What?
And then I was like, I'm literally having a midlife crisis as I wait for my tacos to be delivered. Like it was just like at the table. And the worst part was he was like, "You're Jen Dary." And then he turns to like two other women sitting with us. He's like, "She's Jen Dary." And they were like, "You are though. You are Jen Dary." And I was like, "Oh God." So I like took the train home the next day and within a week let go of the agent, and that was April, and now it's
Yeah.
December and the book is here. And that is like to your point, I think as annoying as it is, this is the way it could happen. And just the fact that I pushed it across the finish line is like whatever, the fucking definition of manifestation.
Yeah.
Like it came to my head, I wrote it down, and then I paid somebody to like give me the paper with it on. It's like crazy. It's just so magic.
Yeah. It's a lot of magic. And it's a lot of, uh, I think, entrepreneurial spirit,
Mhm.
the bravery and the coaching that you bring to your clients and the way that you work with people. A lot of it is like really listening, listen to what's true and then follow that. Don't, sure, like
Yeah.
don't question it, but don't wait. Don't
Yeah.
wait for someone else to come to show up and decide for you or for you to be allowed or for you to, have the right agent or whatever. It's the same, I mean, very similar in so many different fields. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Um,
Is it
but
like that for you in art?
oh yeah, I mean the art world is it's I made a decision a long time ago that I did not want to try to make my living as a fine artist because I saw how random the games you'd have to play to reach the sort of the highest pinnacles, and it had nothing to do with what I loved about painting or what I wanted to share with other
Mm,
people through my work.
mm.
So yeah, I didn't want those gatekeepers to have a say in what I created or didn't, and whether and then sharing it. Thank God for the internet, right? Because I can share my work a lot more widely in this day and age than I could have if this was 50 years ago and I would have been stuck, kind of having to follow those more traditional pathways. But there's also, fear in that. Like, oh,
Mhm.
you can
Oh, yeah.
publish. Nothing's stopping you.
Yeah.
Um, but then it's like, oh, it's really all on me. Nobody else is stepping in and being like, "Yep, this is great, and we're gonna put it out there, and it's gonna be a wild success." Like,
Yeah.
it's just I think there's a lot scarier.
Yeah, and it's very little red hen. It's like, "Who will help me, you know, edit the book?" "Oh, I guess that's on me. I gotta find that person." Like, "Who will help me make a podcast?" "Oh, I guess I better email Tracy." Like all of it. There's no pub team. I have Sheila who helps me out with Plucky stuff and she's a publicist, but there's no like, big system behind it, which is really what makes it tough. And, many self-published authors, I think the average is they sell like less than 20 books or something, less than 50 books. Like the average is very low. So the fact that I have 200 pre-orders is amazing. And I feel in many ways, I feel like my life has been leading up to this book tour because actually it's just sort of a year of parties, to
Yeah,
like see people who are like, "You lived." And I can be like, "What the hell is going on with your career lately?" Just it's going to be like so delightful. I was when you're talking about like the internet and the ability to kind of, I don't know, open your own storefront, quote unquote. or just like display stuff. I was literally just thinking about that this morning. Did you ever read back in like 2011 that column Dear Sugar?
I
Do you
remember
remember
hearing.
that
I
on
don't
the
think I read it,
Rumpus?
but I remember hearing about it.
Yeah, so there's this website, The Rumpus, and they used to have this Dear Sugar column. It was like an advice column. And for
Mhm.
so long, nobody knew who Sugar was, like the responder. And then eventually, I remember it was like a big day, and we all learned it was Cheryl Strayed who wrote that book Wild, right?
Yeah.
Who is just a really wonderful writer, obviously. And someone shared this old Dear Sugar with me yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, Dear Sugar. And I was thinking this morning about, when you're doing the press stuff like I'm doing right now, you have to figure out like, what kind of bio am I sending to this bookstore to interest or to podcasts or whatever?
Right.
And what do they want to see in that bio? And so if you look at other people, it's like, she was published in the Southern Review, the Paris Review, the New York Times Review of Books. Like, okay. It's like, I don't have time to go write other stuff so that I could put that in my bio. Like, I have a lot of other stuff going on. And I was just like, God, I think the reason I'm not writing a lot of shorter form things is because there is such a mental barrier to be like, well, what would they be looking for? What's the word count? Would they want 1,000? Would I need to how would I pitch it? Would they be you know what I mean? Like all that shit is in my head. And so the any creativity I have for the next work I want to do is completely now cut off at the knees. And that I find as a complete result of trauma in the publishing industry. Having
Mm.
gone through this whole time, I feel really limited there. And so just this morning, I was like, I wish it was the internet 2011 again. Like, and I was like, maybe I just need to get Medium going again because I do have things to say. It's just the idea of finessing some essay for like a year and a half and then pitching it to like 5 million things and putting it through submittable where you don't hear back for 12 months. Like, that's not writing. That's like something
No.
else. I don't
No,
know what
that
that
is something
is.
else. That is something that's a slog is what it is. It's a
It's a slog.
soul-crushing slog.
Yeah. And
Now
ironically, the internet used to be that playground, but now, all those systems have now come in and been like, we now exist on the internet too. And you're like, damn it, where's the cool indie space again?
I mean, I think hopefully it's gonna be reemerging because I think AI is driving us all off of the typical platforms because so sick of seeing this generic crap, this
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
like once the thrill of being able to like create your crazy video of like crazy shit happening, or write an entire essay that you didn't write a word of, like once that thrill is over, it's like, oh, I mean, it takes away all the magic,
Yeah.
right? The magic is what happens when you do. I think it's Elizabeth Gilbert that talks about it, but I don't think it's her that coined that described it. But like when a creative idea is coming at you or pops up or
Yeah.
shows up, it doesn't stick around forever.
Yes.
And it oftentimes, yeah, it was Elizabeth Gilbert because she
Yeah.
said like she had this idea and she was going to do this thing and then she didn't get to it. And then like later
And
she
patch
wrote
it.
another, yeah, Ann Patchett,
Yeah.
and she wrote the book that, so it's
Yes.
like it runs through you. And I think a poet described like, it's like an idea is like a bear running, charging down a mountain and you're in your little cabin. And when it runs through the cabin and comes crashing in, you got to grab it and write it down right then and there.
Yeah.
This is very true, I think, for painting as well.
Mm.
Or it'll keep running down the mountain. Somebody else is going to catch it.
Mm.
And you're going to have to, busy yourself doing the things you just need to do, waiting for the next bear to run down.
But can you
Um,
trick yourself into that state? Like what is the do you find is there any pattern to like I need to be in this space or listening to this or having this glass of wine or on a Saturday morning? Like is there anything you do to kind of I don't know, echo that state to so that you find those ideas easier?
yes. I think what you talked about earlier with like being in that quiet space where all the other lights are turned way, way, way down.
Mhm.
That you can't schedule that in like 15-minute increments. Like you can't put on your calendar like, okay, on the hour, every time 10 minutes to the next hour, I will stop and like go be creative.
Mm,
Um, so for me, I try to, I keep sketchbooks. I try to write down ideas
mm,
when I have them, just sketch them or write about them. But then I know that when I'm in the studio, like, who knows what's going to show up or who's going to show up.
right.
Because a lot of it is getting yourself into that state where you can allow other things to kind of come through you. Because, everyone talks about the flow state as being the state you get to where you don't even really, you're not really aware of what's happening. You don't feel like you're consciously like making a decision like I'm going to get a little bit of that green yellow and put it right there.
Yeah.
It's a lot more like you're just dancing with the universe and all the things, all the magic, all the stuff that you can't really bring to the surface, you know, on demand has room and time to kind of come out. So I do think that
Mhm,
it's having the blocks of time
mhm.
to and keeping yourself open, like having new experiences, allowing yourself to not be so rigid about it that you're like, oh, if I don't do this every day, it won't happen. Being okay with periods of time where you're not productive or you're not
Yes.
feeling it, like not freaking out about that, and just trusting that it's all there and percolating and just kind of trying to make time for those things to land when they're ready to land.
Yeah, and there's so much underneath this conversation. I remember, I mean, I've been writing this book since, well, my younger son is 10, okay? So like literally since he's 9 months old, which is when all this went down. So
Yeah.
for his entire life, I've been trying to write my life's masterpiece. And that has been interrupted a lot. This is why it took 9 years, is that there were some years where we didn't sleep literally with that kid, and there are years that we had COVID, and then there were years that I had, it's almost like if you imagine, okay, I get like 20 creative chips every day. There are some seasons where Plucky was taking so many of them because I had these ideas and I was, starting So Now You're a Manager, or creating products, or all those kind of wacky things I've done with Plucky. If I'm using that in my Plucky work, I don't have hunger to do it outside of Plucky work. I'm and also it's just like, yeah, I'm just not able to do that. So I find that like when my work is really drawing that creativity from me, I'm not writing. And then equally, when I was like hot and heavy into the writing, Plucky was just like, "No, we're not getting a new deck of cards this year, bruh. Like this, what old Shopify, keep churning." Like there, I had enough to smear in one or the other. And I joked with a friend last year. I was like, "Well," she was talking about joining a gym, and I said, "Well, I basically have two options. I can either be a really fit person who doesn't write, or I can be a plump writer. Like that's so far where I have come to be." And I don't know, 2026 is coming up. Maybe it'll be a different year, but especially as a parent of young children, I can't do it all. And yet there's also that whole Hamilton, why do you write like you're running out of time? That has also for sure been part of it, which is like I can't rush this, but at the same time, who knows what is coming with the next MRI, and so all of that is just such a little rat's nest of just dynamic underneath all this creativity.
Yeah, and it's crazy that you had that recent
Yeah.
scan and scare,
Yeah.
like, right after you had finished the book and, like,
Yeah.
it was published, it was like the hard copies what showed up, like, the
Yes, the
timing of
next
that was
day.
bizarre, yeah.
Yeah, I just said to my coach yesterday, I was like, I feel, I think the word she uses is activated, like my nervous system is activated, which basically means like, when you're like driving a manual car and you like jam it by accident in one gear. I'm like jammed right now and like activated. It's like one day, well, we have a bad diagnosis for you. Next day, like childhood dream shows up in your literally doorway. It's like I just said, I was like, it's so much. I just um it's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and I just sort of want to be neutral for a little while to absorb some of this. But she had good advice about she was like, well, how do you find yourself like recalibrating? And I said, well, an echo back to this time was that I had nothing else plugged in. And so I was like, okay, in December, which is a nice winding down time anyway, I was like, I'm going to, have like no phone on the weekend this weekend.
Yeah.
Just, I need to stop some of those inputs out of respect for what's going on in my nervous system.
Yeah, sometimes it really is about just what can you throw overboard? Not
Yeah.
permanently necessarily, but sometimes permanently.
Hmm.
But yeah, how can you turn down all of that other stuff so that you can really be present for whatever is going on or needs to go on, make room for it.
Yeah.
And we only have so much time and bandwidth. So you do have to kind of be radically prioritizing, I
Hmm.
guess, in where you let your attention and time go. And as to your point, I think parenting and being a mom is a big part of this book,
Yeah.
um, as well, because, it's a selfless act and you really have to sacrifice a lot. Um, and as an artist, as a creative person, that's hard, right? Because,
Yeah.
it's you've also got this calling to do these things, especially with the bigness, like literally telling you had to do it.
Yeah.
Is there a sense of relief for you right now going into this period of like, okay, it's going to be the book tour and I did it and it's written and like a little prank
Definitely.
with the recent MRI, but thank goodness, just quitting. Um,
Yeah, I there's a lot of relief, and there's also just like honestly pride. I'm like so proud of myself that I did it. I don't have a boss. Nobody made me make time for this.
yeah.
That could have really easily been like, ah, what a cool idea, but I'm busy. So I just feel, yeah, really proud of myself. It's hard to do that, and I did it. And I also have a really interesting, just like, I was saying, I'm not sure what my next season projects look like or anything. I have a lot of ideas for fiction and, other types of writing. I feel like I'm uh what is very natural to me is to use writing to process some of these hard things that are happening, right? Like even in parenting or again with health stuff for sure. But it's kind of like writing about almost dying is, it's very sexy in that everybody's gonna be like, "Oh my god, you almost died," right? So, like, I think that if you see, like, and now everyone and their mother has a memoir, it's like there is something to that. I think it's great for people to process what happened to them, but I don't want to be the person that keeps pulling out the, like, death narrative almost because I'm a stronger writer than that, I guess is really what I want to say. I don't only get readers because I have a scary story. I also am a good writer even when it doesn't evoke like panic in your heart. And I want to try that. I want to flex some of that stuff, which a more intricate narrative or yeah, something where you're not, frankly, I'm just really tired of myself writing about myself. I'm like, okay, well, now we heard her story. Let's no more sequels, no more MRIs, like and so yeah, I have an idea for a novel, stuff like that. And so hopefully, that's next.
Well, I mean, I think anyone who reads this book will be struck by you're not just a pretty good writer, you're a great writer.
Thank
The
you.
writing is wonderful, and so somebody might say, well, what does that mean? To
Hmm.
be a great writer. Um, how do you define great writing?
Hmm. Oh my gosh. You should have given me this question a week ago. No, no. Um hmm. Well, sometimes there's like a sentence. where you're like, "Oh my god, if I cannot find something to underline that sentence, I will die." Like, underlinable sentences to me are important. And
Well, what is why?
mhm.
What is it? What
Mm,
let's go deeper there. Like the urge
yeah.
to underline it. What are you trying to hold on to in that sentence?
Well, I think it's like, "Me too," or like, "Oh my god, I never want to forget this." It's how there's, like, the joke these days where somebody'll have a short quip or something and somebody will say, "Well, that's the t-shirt." Right? Like, "Oh, that's the thing. This is the tattoo." Like, it's those short bursts of, like, the most crystal
See,
clear, true, that's real." And in some cases, especially if it's not a memoir, it might be something where just the word choice is so boss, like, oh
yeah,
my gosh, like you just put those three words together and no one ever did that in the history of the world. So sometimes it's that, but to me, good writing has been really edited. I'll also say that. Like this book, okay, I was trying to shop this book around, and then after a year of trying to shop it around, I cut 20,000 words. It is now 60,000 words. So there were 20,000 more words, stories, anecdotes, scenes that I had to go through and be like, hang on a second. This is not a scrapbook. This cannot just be a collection of things that happened. Like, I had taken a fiction class, honestly, and you learned in the fiction class, okay, main character has to emotionally have an arc. She has
yeah,
to be different on page 1 than she is at the end. So now I'm, like, in this psycho meta space of, like, okay, myself in 2016, how is she different then than in 2022, which is when the book ends? And then which scenes help to convey why and how she changed, and which ones are actually just like maybe funny or moving, but not changing her narrative arc.
yeah.
And so I think good writing removes things until it's really bare to the bone and so worth reading every word.
Very similar to painting, right? Like
Ah,
you have to be willing. One of the biggest risks, well, overworking a painting kills it. But
oh,
if you get too attached to a little spot in the painting that's really good, but it doesn't fit the whole,
mm,
you know, essence of the painting, and you get too like precious about one little
mhm.
spot, then like you have to just scrape it out,
Ugh,
or like paint over it. Like you
I'm
can't
so
get
sweaty with you just saying that. Yeah.
out like that. Just scrape it out.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to let go of a lot of the stuff that can feel protective. It's like, oh, but that's so nice, that
Yes.
it's hard. Editing's very hard.
Yeah, because I think underneath it, you're like, oh my God, that was the best I'll ever do, and I'll never be able to come up with something so good again. There's like you have to, I think, find some pliability in this art making where you say, "Yeah, all right, well, that was good, but it's not working, so it's not that good," and you have to be able to edit, rewrite. Obviously,
Yeah,
in
you
writing, you
can't
have
get
track
precious
changes,
about
but
it. You can't get precious about it, and you have to have faith that, like, there's more where that came from. So,
bingo.
right? Like,
Totally.
you're not, working with what you've pulled out of a now dry well. Um,
Yes.
it's not a limited resource. But also, you know, for me, what I when I get really, engaged with, reading, whether it's a book or poetry, which I love
Mm,
poetry. Um, I'm I'm first of all transported. So like I am
mhm.
fully not Tracy Lane in bed or sitting in her
Yes,
chair
true.
or trying to reading, right? I am somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I am, when I read a line that I want to underline. So I was, I didn't have an answer to that when I asked you, but I thought about it too, and it's because ultimately I do think we're all living very separate. We're all trapped in these bodies. We never really know what somebody else is thinking or feeling and we have art to try to share it. We have
Mm,
writing and painting and the arts. Like the only way we can kind of try to share and connect around things that we can't explain,
Yes.
um, that aren't just about like, no one cares about the mechanics of most of our days, but it's these deeper things. And when someone can articulate it in a way where I feel like I experienced it too, right? So
So
it's a
good.
connecting that gap, and whether it's the perfect words or the perfect um sense of place
Mhm.
or description of an emotion or your thought process, when it's like I feel like I feel that. I feel like that as if I'm living it too. I think there's just an amazing
Mm.
connection that I feel when language can do that for me. And
Have
it's
you
it's
ever
so
heard, like, about, so I played a violin in orchestra in high school, and if you play a pure A in, like, on my violin, and there are, like, cellos or, other string instruments, if I play a pure A, they will resonate. They will their strings, if you look at them, they will, like, hum a little bit. Like, it'll resonate, right? And I think that's really what you're talking about. And I had this experience, probably a month or 2 ago. Long story short, we've been volunteering lately with some elderly folks locally to us, and I drove a 92-year-old woman to a fabric store. She wanted to buy fabric to make pajamas. It was the cutest thing that ever happened. And I it was like a 20-minute drive, and so we were just talking, and she was telling me about her life, and, um we went to this fabric store, and she was so excited just to kind of be out. She had needed a ride. She didn't get out so much, and she's looking around and just curious and looking at things. Oh, she needed some elastic for the pants that she was going to make, and it was just such a delight to let her get out of her house a little bit. And so, we're driving back, and I said what a nice time I had. I went in and helped her bring her stuff in, and I was trying to describe it to my friend the next day, and I was like, it's almost like here comes the dog. It's almost like it was, like, too hot. It was like, when you're getting a sunburn, it's like something that is so beautiful, but it's, like, too hot. It's like I almost got, like, emotionally sunburned by this experience because it was so beautiful, and I was so glad to be there and have her in the car, and it was like I just felt like I shouldn't be anywhere else right now. I should just be helping this woman in this moment in her life, and it was so strong, and I was like, I think that's what God is. I think it's these moments where you're just like, I shouldn't be anywhere else but here. And if you can find a couple of those every once in a while, it knits you back into that reminder that on your worst days, like, all right, something's still out there. Like, something is still bigger than me. And that is a relief.
it is, and that's the magic, right? That's the
That's the
bigness,
magic.
that's God, that's magic, that's we all know it's there. Um, we all know that what we can see and explain and feel is like this tiny little snippet,
Yeah.
just consciousness, where does it come from? What does it mean? All those things are just
Yeah.
we don't have answers, we don't know. And we don't like not knowing, but I love not knowing.
It would be
Because
so boring if we knew.
it would be really boring. Hold on, I gotta let the dog out to say
Let the
hello.
dog out.
Well,
The
you
dog's
can let
like,
him pour out. Uh, Brief interruption. Yeah, thank you. You mentioned the chords,
Mhm.
the pure A, and I think a lot about frequencies and
Mm.
energy and um yeah, like when you feel, it's just the things that aren't physical that you can't see necessarily, but that are having an impact. And um, I do think that your book and the writing and the journey that you take the reader on is so wonderful because it is just, I mean, it's a journey and it's a magical, um, and also, like, very real, very just, like, some days it was just, you know,
Yeah.
a slog, and there were hard things, and amazing things, and it was just there was no um nothing was glamorized, nothing was made bigger than it needed to be,
Mm.
or smaller than it needed to be. It was just like, I don't know, it just felt very true. I just felt like I was there. Um,
I'm
and
so glad.
yeah, I mean,
Really.
your words and also your voice coming through, and
Mm.
that's the other thing. And I kept asking myself when I was reading this, I'm like, can I hear her because I know her?
Mhm.
So I know what she would sound like if she was saying these words. Like I really want to know what I want to talk to somebody who doesn't know you at all, who's read the book.
Listeners, call in.
That's right. Seriously, like if any of you read the book and are, now listening to the podcast, or listening to the podcast and then go read the book and don't
Mhm.
know Jen, and and maybe I don't know how they would not know what you sound like now if they're listening to the podcast, but just the way you phrase things, and where you uh where you push the boundaries of like what you're willing to consider and grapple with, like you really picked your battles in this book. And I think must have picked your battles when you were going through them, right? But you were like, okay, this is what needs to be addressed, and the way you would describe going through that was just very vulnerable and honest, and
Yeah, I feel like I'm about to be very naked all year next year. And I think that's also why my nervous system is a little bit tweaked, because every time I imagine someone reading it, it's almost, I think I said this to you the other week, like it's almost like I have to go pick up the book and start reading it to be like, okay, how would Tracy feel about this scene? Like I need to like empathetically reread for every single person that's reading. And it's like, well, that's not scalable at all. So that can't happen. But there's also, I can just feel that I'm learning some more also about boundaries in this situation. I mean, I am a coach, so I'm the listener, right? I'm also
well,
like a very engaging person. So I'm going to tell you, like, well, the dog just shit wherever, but I'm fine. What do you want to talk about today in coaching? Like I'm going to like be a real person, but coaching sessions are not about me. And as a coach, I need to be at least somewhat neutral to like what you're bringing to the table, right? I'm not judging it. We're just working with what we got. So, and same with facilitation. Like when I'm teaching manager training, I'm really empowering the voices in the room. Like, what do you think? What's your experience here? You have wisdom. And this book is all the lights just got turned in my direction. So it's really abnormal for me because, like, you can even tell in this conversation, I'm like, okay, Tracy, how about your experience? Like probably that's just the nice thing to do, but you can tell it's not, I'm not at ease with only talking for myself. I want to be interactive. So I'm I feel a little shy that, like, some of my clients will read it and they don't know what I think about after coaching, or like some of the people who taken my trainings will read it and they don't know that I wash my hands like a surgeon before teaching the class, and that's in the book. So, yeah, and I don't want anyone to think now that they've read my book, they know me more than I know myself. And so that's going to be a nice, gentle boundary for me to hold. Like people be like, oh, I bet you like this or don't like this because I read your book. It's like, maybe, but maybe there's like some distance there too.
yeah, that's just gotta it's the naked is gotta really feel, that's a good word for it. To some extent, again, with painting, or even with what I put out for work stuff,
Yeah.
even just doing this podcast, it's always vulnerable to put yourself out there. But and this is great because I get to talk to other people about their stuff. So, but
Yeah, true.
it's
Yeah.
this book is about you and what you went through and what you experienced and how that has changed you. And so yeah, it's all there. There's nowhere to hide. There's no cover for you. And so I can
Yeah.
understand, but I think that the book is not really about you,
Right.
right? So the book is about, for me, my takeaway, the book is about the fact that we, I think, intrinsically have this curiosity and this understanding that there is a lot of other stuff going on,
Mhm.
um, always. And that maybe it took something really scary and traumatic to open some doors, or some, like you tuned in to some
Yeah.
things through that process that were undeniably uh
Mhm.
not, you know, it wasn't like a dream. And even if it was, like, who cares? The
Yep.
the the truth behind the things that you experienced and felt and then embraced, like, what that has allowed you to grow into as a person, I think is universal. It's a universal thing that many of us do experience without a brain tumor. But in moments of extreme fear,
Yeah.
like, oh my God, and people often say, like, oh, everyone should live their life like they've got a giant brain tumor and they, don't
Yeah.
know what's going to happen next. But that's so hard to do, uh, you know,
Oh, yeah.
and it's not like everyone should go out there and like find some traumatic thing to happen, but we kind of, I think, tell ourselves like, oh, I don't want bad things to happen, and like that's not life. Bad things are going to happen. But bad, what does bad mean? Like good and bad, isn't this all like our experience, and don't we want it to be as rich and real and present as we possibly can? Isn't that what we owe?
Well, and I hope honestly that that's what's modeled in the book is this notion that like I feel very strongly I'm not some sort of like evangelist for any one religion or spirituality or
Like,
anything over
no
another.
cults here, don't worry,
No
no
call
cults.
to that's the t-shirt, see? Like yeah, I'm not if anything, I just sort of want to be a permission slip for people to wonder, what else might there be? And then to pay attention when you notice things that might give you an indication of something for you and to not be like, well, that's explainable, or I was a little tired that day, or whatever, because I don't know. Who even cares? Maybe you were tired, and maybe also something made itself known. And
Yeah,
could you build your life by interacting, like co-creating how your life exists with a playful nature, with some for me, the bigness is playful. The bigness does not take offense. I mean, I literally can be like, dude, what is happening with this child? Like I like my interactions and playfulness with that force or presence, whatever you want to call it, are very natural to me. I don't need to kneel or wear religious paraphernalia when I play with that. And that to me is important because if it was the other way, it wouldn't be interesting to me. So I hope that the book invites people um, to find their own version of that and know that that's okay. If it's not the same as mine, that's also okay. We're kind of both picking up on little heartbeats of what's going on.
yeah. I think I wrote this when I was writing about the book, just in sharing it with others, or encourage, just talking about it. That, like, the notion of believing in everything is one of the, and reading the book and getting to the end, it was like, well, I've got goosebumps just thinking about it. What a beautiful and all encompassing way to feel that connection without having it to be so
Yeah.
sliced and diced and dogmatic, and it's this religion or it's this thing or explainable. It's just like, no, just what's wrong with just believing in everything,
Hmm.
you know
And it does also help me Blur boundaries, like I listen to a Jewish podcast by a hilarious rabbi and I love it. And I'm not Jewish, but maybe in my heart I am a little bit. And, and I go to an Episcopal church, which is very social justice oriented. And like it allows me then to move in and out of those spaces, take what resonates and not get hung up on the stuff that doesn't. If I have to belong to one thing, then there's like all kinds of guilt complex and who knows what else that comes with that, right?
Yeah, but I mean, also like all of these religions, all share like the same basic essence. And yeah, I'm listening to season 2 of Telepathy Tapes, and first episode is all about NDEs, near death experiences,
Hmm.
and they had I forget the name of the individual who was researching this, and I was shocked to find out that the first documented near death experience is from like 4000 BC, or like,
Cool.
yeah. So we've been talking about and documenting and trying to connect around these experiences for way longer than was organized religion.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm obsessed with cave paintings, right? I'm like,
Ooh.
what made them? Because when I
Yes.
learned that these
Great
caves are like,
question.
it wasn't like they came upon a beautiful cave and they were like, let's make pictures of the bison that we're gonna have for dinner or whatever. They no, they would like they'd find some little opening and they'd just have their little torches and they'd crawl. Sometimes they'd have to crawl for a mile.
Nightmare.
Terrifying, right? And they wouldn't know what
Nightmare.
was in that cave. I mean, there'd be like there could be anything in that cave. As they're like, but they go way back into it. And then they were like, oh, here's where we're going to make our masterpieces. Like, you can't even see them unless you have fire. And,
Yes.
so why were they doing that? And to me, it's like you're
Yeah.
boring into like the earth to depict these scenes that say, like, I'm here. This is my experience. This
Mhm.
is the magic of it all. I'm going to do these paintings in these magical places that are hard to get to and are feel sacred and feel special. And so like that urge comes from a place that is not because like they were doing 20 Hail Marys or
Yeah.
sh-
But it's such a good example of what happens if you make art only for yourself? Like one of the hardest parts of this book was I had some really significant writer's block, I don't know, a few years ago, where I wasn't even working on the book. I think I was just taking like a class for a few weeks on something. And I got to the point where I I made Chris and the boys leave the house because I had to finish this like writing thing for homework. And I didn't want to type it because I didn't want there to be a history of it.
Mhm.
And I wrote it on a piece of paper. I mean, it was like an exercise that it was just like try to get some ideas down, it was like not a big deal. And then I tore up the paper and I now sound insane, but like I hid it in different garbage cans. Like I didn't want anybody to be able to put that together to see that I had written that. I was so in my head about it. And when I think about the freedom, I don't know how I might grant myself that. Maybe there would have to be a fire outside, so I could immediately dispose of it and no one would ever know. But like, or like when you think about I think in college in a writing class, like we were all supposed to write a sex scene. And I was like, I'm gonna go die. Like I mean, I'm like a modern person now, but like, there are some things that can be very triggering for entire class of like 20-year-olds. Like like if you knew you could burn it 2 seconds later, what would you write? Like, what would you write if you knew nobody was ever gonna read it or see it? Would you put it in a cave, a terrifying number of, like, miles underground where when I saw those videos, I was like, "You guys are insane. I would literally never, ever go under that cave." I'm not afraid of death, but I feel a little claustrophobic sometimes. And I was like, "That's my true nightmare." But, like, what is in you that you would express if you never had to worry about being canceled? It's worth thinking about.
It's definitely worth thinking about. I'm also I'm reading the uh is it The Artist's Way?
Oh yeah, Cameron,
Yeah.
Lily Cameron. Yeah.
I'm reading about the morning pages, right?
Uh
And that
huh.
idea of just getting up and writing what, three
Yeah.
pages first thing.
Yep.
Even if it's just writing like I'm tired and don't feel like writing,
Yep.
just write it. Because I think as much as uh we block ourselves because we're afraid of what other people are going to think, um which is also like most people, I mean, good for you if you are able to get it out there in a way that anyone even pays attention to it,
Yeah.
let alone thinks about it. But what is clogging up the hose, like what do you just kind of need to like get, or what's in that? What's in there that might be like a diamond, but it's so covered in all of the fear and the apprehension, and so you keep it inside, or the bear runs through the cabin down the mountain and you lose it and it's gone
Yeah.
forever. Why not just keep putting it down, getting it out? uh how else do we move forward otherwise?
Well, that's the acorns, right? It's like,
Yeah.
how do you have an abundant mindset? This was a good idea, a good sentence, a good spot on the paint. Well, there'll be another one, and there'll be another one, and sometimes I think it having ideas feels pressure, like now it's a responsibility. So if I even sit down and write one little thing, then I'll feel the pressure to finish it later, and I'm busy this week. Like so like is there a more playful way that we can engage in creativity? I think it would be really fun to do a creative retreat with you, by the way. I'm just going to manifest this shit now. Like I feel like we should take people to the woods and do stuff and then burn our art and go home happy. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Burn it all.
So,
Burn it
boom,
all.
burn
We
it
can wear
all.
we can wear masks, we don't even, like, know who the
Oh,
other people are.
now it's like Sleep No More.
It can be
Did you
like,
ever
Yellow Jackets, we can, like, get tribal and
go
burn out the ships and
underground?
go
Only
underground.
paint underground. That's the rule.
Ooh, this sounds like a fun retreat. I like it.
No
Okay.
ghosts. No ghosts. No backsies on ghosts. I only want to hear
Oh,
other people's stories. I can't have them in my life.
oh, you've got them though, so,
I know. Well,
yeah, you've got the bigness. Um, yeah, there's so many things. I have some other new experiences to share with you next time we chat about
ooh,
mystical things, but,
ooh,
it does. I do think that, like, if you aren't hopefully gonna wait around for traumatic events to crack things open, I do think that being purposeful about getting out into a place with other people or by yourself where you can live in that silence and in those unknowns and in that questioning with no expectations. Like, you don't
yeah,
have to come out of that time with, like, your finished, poem or painting or book, but you make space for it so you can listen
yeah,
and just hear the reverberations that are all around, that are signals, signs, echoes, whatever it might be. It's hard to hear it if you don't at least give yourself a little time and space to engage with it.
totally. And sometimes maybe you need to move location. Like I know that I always have huge ideas in airplanes, like insane ideas in airplanes, and I don't have Wi-Fi, and I just like it just goes big, 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 and then I like end up with a 12-point plan by the time I land. And so if that is a thing, if you know that you can't access that part of yourself in your home where there's laundry to be done,
Yeah.
then maybe there's a way to leave. Had this writing residency earlier this year at Virginia Center of the Creative Arts, and so it's in like Bumblefuck, Virginia, basically. And the book was done, it was edited, it was being sort of design interior designed. So I didn't have a project, so I was like, well, this will be an interesting week. And it was so hard, Tracy. Like all these other people were like, off to work, and they would go in their like little studios, which is so charming. They would go in their little studios and they would be like, now I'm going to write for 13 hours. And I would get in there and I would be like, bum, ba-da, what should I write about next? And I like could get some work done, and then I would be like, I need to leave. It was so hot also. I was like, I need to go to the thrift store right now. So like I would drive to a thrift store in Bumblefuck, Virginia, and and then I would come back and I was like, do I have ADHD? Like what's wrong with me? Like why can't I not sit here? So like what I learned about that is that if I am not in a state with a project where I'm deep in it and I just need time, it's
Mhm.
not the right time for me to go away and seclude myself from everyone else. It was really
Yeah.
lonely. It was a little bit weird. Like everybody else was full force at work and I was a little bumpy. I mean, it was nice to have the experience for sure, but I realized that there are flavors of that, of leaving my normal life, depending on what phase I'm at with a project that is going to be better than others, you know?
Did you set so this is a selfish question because I know I work really good or I work better. I'm more productive when I have a deadline.
Mm.
Did you give yourself milestones or deadlines during the course of this book? In
I
whether it was in the writing or in the publishing or editing or any of that?
Well, I signed up for like a year-long manuscript program
Mhm.
a few years in, which I then kind of renewed for a second year where there was a woman I knew who's a writer and she was like a teacher. And so there was nothing like too heavy-handed in terms of structure, but like I would get her pages every however often I wanted, things like that. So she was like a very early reader of the manuscript. And I mean, it's changed so much since then. That was helpful. And then is like I took some writing classes, like I said, that were either fiction or essay or whatever. But when I would start to just need some accountability and somebody to like look at some stuff. Most of that was for new writing, but there were a couple classes that I applied to and got into that were based on the fact that like I have a whole manuscript. What do I do next? You know, so like there was one
Yeah.
about how to publish your manuscript once you have it done, and there was another one about memoir revision and stuff. So those structures helped me have not only like the deadline for those things, but the people in my life and the my network growing for people in those spaces. I also work well with a deadline, but not at least in for this book, not creatively. It's just the pressure that I put on myself then for that deadline with kids. It's like I can't stay up late anymore. That's not my vibe. I get up at 5:45 in the morning and I do morning pages actually and yoga in the morning and then I wake the kids up. So that is its own practice, but I can't pull all-nighters. I can't,
Oh,
and
yeah, no, when I
yeah,
say deadline, I don't mean all-nighters, more just there is
like
a
accountability.
yeah, some
Mhm.
accountability. I think accountability but that requires eh, some people are good at setting their own
Yeah.
deadlines and
Yeah.
accountabilities, but I think sometimes it's so helpful to have someone else that you have said, "Okay, I will get this to you by then."
Definitely. Yeah, I think that there were periods of writing this book where I did have that, or like I would, the first few people that I shared it with, it was like, oh my God, is someone else actually going to see this? So then I would like trick myself. I would say like, okay, I'll send it to you by next Friday. And then I'd be like, I gotta get like all this place. It's like spring cleaning your house before someone comes over, you know? So those were like good little motivational steps. And yeah, I just don't know like at what phase of life do you not operate like this? Like when the kids go to college? Like I'm not really sure. Maybe someone can call in from the listeners who
I know, I wish we were on the
kids are
radio and
older.
we could take
Oh
live
my
calls,
god. Maybe we
right?
should do a radio show. All right, anyway, I'm going
Oh,
back to
well,
2011
alright.
again.
Now let's do it. From the cave.
From the cave. Oh my god.
So, you know, you look, that's such a reality. Like kids, you got your own business, you got a relationship, you've got family, you've got you know, other things you're doing that are fulfilling in your life. You're driving 92-year-olds to the fabric store and I love that you talked about doing more of that type of living and connecting in the book.
Yeah.
But I think that we can so easily beat ourselves up if we're not like being creative all the time. You're not immediately writing the next book or
Yeah.
even going into this book, being able to say like, oh, and prior to this, I did this and this and this. we think it's all got to stack and be constantly churning. Um, but I don't think that means you're living a good life, you
Mm,
know?
mhm,
So for you right now, looking forward, what is a good what are you looking forward to in terms of like that's what a good life is gonna feel like? Um,
mm. Well, do you know that's my tattoo? Have we talked about that? Go have a good life.
I'll have a good life.
Yeah, that's from like a year ago. I had an MRI that was a little problematic, and I saw an eye doctor who needed to weigh in on it. And it's very gentle, like older South Asian man, and he like looks at all the film and then he says, I think it's okay. I think check it in a year, which is what we just did then, right? And he kind of like put his hand on my shoulder and said, I don't want you to worry about this. I want you to go have a good life. And all of a sudden it was like that. That's the t-shirt, except it was like, "Oh my god, that's the tattoo." And
Yeah,
I, like,
you
have
just
always wanted a tattoo, you know? So, then I was like, "Oh my god," and then I was like, "Let's just make sure you're not, like, literally just happy because you're not gonna die again," like and then I was like, "No, no, it still is the tattoo," and then I got it tattooed. I think for me, that creative mojo, I'm so liberal arts about it in many ways. Like right now, that's manifesting as embroidering Christmas ornaments. Like I'm banging out a bunch of those while we watch TV. And sometimes it's writing and sometimes it's plucky stuff. And right now I'm like researching what the hell kind of envelopes should I buy
mm,
so that I can send these books out, Or like we made a really funny postcard. If you pre-order the book or if you order the book through Plucky's website, you'll get a very funny postcard inside that's reminds you to review it on Amazon or Goodreads, and then it also says like if you didn't like the book you can just forget you read it, and there's like a picture of my dog giving you a side eye, like funny little things like that. So I think a good life is just to engage with the world, like not just walk through it, but find moments where you can tweak it or make something. Or I'm not really a cooking person, but some people cook and that's their creative outlet, like, but
well,
to allow what is natural and intuitive to happen, and pick up the phone and call the person that will give you energy when you need it, listen to podcasts when you need it, but also take a long quiet walk when you need it. Like, don't let other expectations from external dictate what you do. You know what you need. I mean, it's almost 100% true in coaching. You might need confidence to do it, but you know what the right answer is like 99% of the time. And I just think as a coach, but now, of course, also as like a recipient of help from other people, like I'm not usually that far off.
nice.
So keep following that. And that I think would be a great life.
Yeah. It's easier than well, and I do want to acknowledge that like there are a lot of people who literally cannot go have a good life, right?
Yep.
Um so
Yep.
if you have the ability, then don't be the one to stop yourself.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that so true? Like, who's putting ceilings on us? For sure, sometimes it's external forces, but we're
Yeah.
also putting a lot of ceilings on ourselves all the time. And I sometimes will be coaching someone who knows they should leave their job and is voicing, I want to leave my job. And in my head, I'm like, you need to leave yesterday. But like, again, trying to be sort of neutral. And that roundabout can happen for years. A person, this really isn't right. It can happen in relationships too. It can happen for like, I don't know, that kind of house you live in, or like all those kinds of things. All of us have tiny or big feelings intuitively that like this isn't working anymore. And the bravest thing you can do is to to leave it, quit, like, or adopt something new or whatever it is, but like make that change, because the distress and the trauma that happens from staying in something that doesn't fit anymore is so, like, nobody ever talks about that. It's, you don't win because you stayed married for 50 years. You
No.
win if it was a good life, well, I don't
Yeah.
know if you win anyway, but you know what I'm saying, like,
Yeah. And I don't think if you don't change things, like I think about people, so many people who are have jobs that they hate
yeah.
and they stay because I think they're, it's safe, right? It feels safer than leaving without already knowing exactly what the next better thing is going to be.
Definitely.
But you aren't making any room for that next better thing to show up if you just are hedging your bets like that. I think there's life is so much richer when you commit to a decision that feels like you're honoring your spirit and your soul, and
Yeah.
don't think you need to have it all figured out before you do that.
Someone told me this phrase a couple weeks ago, the surface area of serendipity. And I'm like obsessed with it now. And I just released Day of Big Dreaming stuff like 2 days ago. And that's the theme this year, Ready, Set, Serendipity, which is like, yes, you should have goals and you should set up your life to know what shots are you going to take next year. But also, what about all the stuff on the very large fringe? What about all those invitations you couldn't even predict could come your way next year? Or the people who are going to find an opportunity for you, right? Like if you stay in a windowless room in your basement, the opportunities are going to be much more limited than if you are out and about. And I don't mean go burn yourself out on the conference circuit or whatever the hell people are going to, turn that all the way up on. But like just how are you making space for serendipity? And I think that's where those magic moments happen, where that
They d
sunburned feeling, like, I'm in a 92-year-old's house and her husband passed away 3 months ago and she's lonely. And I'm feeling like, how did I even get here? Like yesterday I was coaching and in 2 hours I'll be coaching. And now I'm in this lady's house and like her cat's name is Bob. Like, what? It's like as if someone plucked me up and stuck me in a short story, and now I'm going back to my other life. Those serendipitous moments are they can be some of the most meaningful things that happen in my week.
Yeah, and they happen all the time if you allow them to.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you're right, you cannot do it in a windowless room in your basement. I used to, when I was, just, going through my divorce, moved into an apartment, first time I'm living on my own, I think I was
Mm,
47 years old. Um, and I was traumatized, I was upset, I was feeling very, had the rug pulled out, from under me on so many different levels, and I just started to realize, like, you gotta get out there. Who
mhm.
knows what's gonna happen, but you gotta say yes, and you're not gonna have anything
Yeah.
to say yes to if you just sit here and, like, be broken, you
Yeah.
know? And, and a lot of times it's the thing you don't wanna do. It's like going to the gym, Like, do you wanna do it? Do you feel like it? Don't wait around until you feel like it, you know? Do not
Yes.
wait around until you feel like it or you're inspired or you suddenly have the great idea. No, that's where the work, I think, does come in
Yeah.
to every day, just making sure that you're expanding that surface area, um, so that those things can come in and be part of what enriches your life, and so that you can have a good life. I don't think we
Yep.
do this on our own. So
Plus one to everything.
plus one, plus 10, plus a million.
Plus a
Um,
million.
Jen, thank you so much for writing this book, for coming on this podcast and talking about it, for being a friend
Mm.
and being who you are. And just, I, I hope everyone reads this book, and trust me, you will be better off for it. And it will give you so much to carry forward with in your journey. Um, it's like having a best friend on, like, oh, scary shit could happen, or I want more magic. But I'm stressed out and I'm a mom and I'm busy and I'm doing all these things, and yet the grace that you can find and that you found going even in the messiest of and hardest of times was just um a beautiful journey to be allowed to go on with you. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And I hope when people read it, I hope they feel like we're just hanging out. And that really was so much of the tone was I mean, I'm a coach, right? I'm here to hang out with you and we'll handle the hard stuff together. And so, um, I hope that it's underlinable for people and that they feel invited to sort of wonder.
I can't wait for all the people to start sharing their underlines.
Oh.
Anyone who's listening, let's like make that a thing. Let's share our underlines for this book. Or any books really, but especially
Mm.
this one. So once again, go out and get it, pre-order it. I believe in everything and where can people get your book?
They can actually get it anywhere they want. I'm not sure if we're gonna
We'll
post this
include
right.
we'll include links and all of that, but
Yeah,
if you're just
you can do it
listening to the
anywhere, but you
summer,
could
you know,
also get on if you go on bplucky.com to the shop. I'll sign a book for you, and you can get
great.
it there too.
All right. Well, we'll include links on in the show notes, and otherwise just Google it or go to
Mhm.
goplucky.com and get yourself this book and read it. It's it's a page turner. I mean, I flew through it. I was not expecting that. I don't know what I was expecting, but I literally could not put it down until I finished it, and then had to text you at 2 in the morning. Sorry about that.
That's what
Um,
happened to you, everyone. 5 stars from Tracy Halverson and a
that's right.
sleepless night.
Sleepless nights, late night texts, 5 stars. Everyone listening, thanks for tuning in, and let's all go have a good life.